Day 6 of Green Bay Packers training camp is now in the books. Today was the second day of full padded practice. The Packers have an off day tomorrow, then they'll be back at it on Thursday, Friday, before family night this coming Saturday. So let's go over all the main takeaways from today's practice. Was definitely the longest, most physical practice, and LaFleur even hinted at that before practice, saying today you're going to see some real football, which we in fact did. A lot to go over in today's practice, so let's dive right into it. First, let's start with the injury updates we have from today's practice, as we did see a good amount of injuries yesterday in the first day of pads. It was confirmed that it was a groin injury for running back Marshawn Lloyd, which is just very unfortunate, which kind of signals that it happened before the Nate Hobbs hit. If it's a groin injury, Matt LaFleur mentioned he stuck his foot in the ground and didn't put his other foot in the ground when he needed to and ended up injuring his groin. Just very unfortunate for Marshawn Lloyd, a guy that I was very excited for to see more of here in year two. And who knows if it's going to be a long-term thing, but you know, if we're judging it based off of what we saw last year, who really knows? At least we still have guys like Emmanuel Wilson and Chris Brooks on this roster. Also just signed Israel Abanikanda, so he's a guy that maybe could contribute a little bit more now that Marshawn Lloyd's out. Not really sure on the severity of the groin injury or how long it's going to be. He was on the field today, just no pads, no helmet, of course. We'll see how it goes. Hopefully we can still see him in some preseason games. Just a very unfortunate injury, but it seemed that it happened even before the Nate Hobbs hit yesterday. Also yesterday, we saw a clip of Dontavian Wicks on the sideline, kind of gingerly walking around. I didn't really have any insight on that. Well, he was out of practice today, and it was listed as a calf injury. So he was indeed injured yesterday. We got that insight today. Hopefully that's nothing long-term. It didn't look too severe on the sideline yesterday. Again, the Packers likely just being a little precautious here. Brenton Cox Jr. was at practice today. We saw him come up with some type of injury, it seemed like yesterday. Nothing big there, as he did practice today. Also, Malik Heath was back. We learned that he just got the wind knocked out of him in yesterday's practice when he came up what it looked like injured. Aaron Banks went back inside to the Don Hutson Center today after warmups, maybe suffered a slight bit of a setback with that back injury. Hopefully it's nothing severe. Obviously, we want to see Aaron Banks get work in with this starting offensive line with the pads on in team sessions. And also Savion Williams went back into the Don Hutson Center after warmups. He's been recovering from that concussion. We saw him participate in team drills yesterday, so really hoping nothing bad there as well. And also Elton Jenkins made his debut today in team session. We saw him return off the NFI 2 days ago. Didn't participate in team sessions up until today, and he did today. That's great to see. Quickly going over the press conference before practice, one note from Brian Gutekunst. He spoke on Nate Hobbs' physical presence at practice. He said, quote, "You're trying to balance a lot of things as you're going through camp. We're trying to become a certain kind of football team that can win and can win deep into the playoffs. There's a certain kind of physicality that you have to have. Nate Hobbs brings all that, and that's why we brought him here." I like that mindset. I was just talking about it in my highlight video. You know, you want to remain a physical football team. All the great football teams are a very physical team, and you want to practice how you play. And, you know, it's just unfortunate that an injury potentially happened from that, but we later learned it didn't. But still, nonetheless, you want your guys to be physical. You want your guys to practice how they play. And you want your defense to be able to punch an offense in the mouth when they need to. And I think that kind of was a problem with the last year's Packers football team. You know, when they got punched in the mouth, they didn't punch back. And I think bringing in a guy like Nate Hobbs will allow, you know, this defense to have more of that identity. Quickly going over the starters to start team sessions in today's practice. The offense was Love, Jacobs. It was a 3 wide receiver set, so it was Dobbs, Golden, and Reed. Third straight day, Golden's getting reps with the first team, and man, it was another huge day from Golden. We'll get into that. I mean, this guy is going to be a day one starter for the Packers and has the opportunity to become wide receiver 1 for sure. Kraft at tight end, and the offensive line was Walker, Morgan, Jenkins, Ryan, and Tom. The defense was typical, as we're used to seeing. LVN, Wyatt, Clark and Gary, McDuffie and Cooper at the backers. The Packers are in nickel, so it was Nixon, Hobbs, and Bullard, and the safeties were Williams and McKinney. Now let's go over the takeaways from day 6 of Green Bay Packers training camp. There were 1v1s today. Again, I thought they were going to happen yesterday. They didn't. They did happen today, and here's some quick notes from those 1v1s. Matthew Golden and Carrington Valentine were battling it out in 1v1s. They had 3 straight reps against each other, and it was a good battle. Valentine had good coverage on all three, had a pass breakup on the first, but Golden got away with 2 catches on the final 2 reps, including a very nice 9-route catch, contested catch, coming back to fight for the football and catching it over Valentine. Love to see that from Matthew Golden, and that was just the start for Golden in today's practice. Musgrave also beat Javon Bullard a handful of times. I believe one was a double move, which, in 1v1s, if you're running double moves, it's really hard to cover as a defender, but nonetheless, good day from Musgrave in today's practice. Keyshawn Nixon and Romeo Dobbs went at it. That's like a common 1v1 battle, I feel like, for the past couple of years, Nixon versus Dobbs, and they tied 1-1. LVN also had 3 great reps today in 1v1s versus Jordan Morgan and won all 3. LVN has seemingly taken that year 3 jump. Don't want to get ahead of myself here, but he's had a quiet, great start to camp. Now for the team sessions, this was definitely the longest, most physical camp thus far, probably because the Packers have an off day tomorrow, so they just went at it today. And like I said, it was an amazing day for rookie wide receiver Matthew Golden. Yet again, player of the day on offense. He's had multiple of these, and the biggest play of the day was a 60-yard touchdown from Jordan Love, where Matthew Golden beat both Nate Hobbs and Evan Williams by 5 or 6 yards. Just absolutely blew it out of the water. 60-yard touchdown, just gone. I hope a clip of this surfaces somewhere. It was definitely the play of the day, and Matthew Golden has continued to impress. It feels like every single day we're on here talking about Matthew Golden and what a great play he did at camp and what he's going to be able to contribute to this offense. He's been very consistent through non-padded to now when the pads come on. The guy's simply out there just making plays. Like I mentioned, LVN having a great start to camp. One of the better players on defense today, continues to create pressure. And also there was an end around to Romeo Dobbs where LVN threw him to the ground with one arm. So hopefully LVN can take this year 3 jump. That would be huge for this defense to get someone opposite Rashawn Gary that teams have to game plan for. If LVN can take that next jump, he has the potential to do so. And if he's being coached up correctly, which it does seem like it's starting to happen by DeMarcus Covington, that's going to be, great for this defense. Another player that, we keep talking about and keep saying, this guy has the potential to make the roster as an undrafted free agent is Nasir Stackhouse. And, he's making some plays without the pads, but you were going, okay, wait until the pads come on, see if this continues. Well, it has. Yesterday, he made multiple plays, and yet again today, he made even more plays. Disruptive is the best summary for Nasir Stackhouse so far in training camp. He had 2 would-be sacks in today's practice, also plugging run lanes, and at this point, Nasir Stackhouse is going to make the roster, right? If you're an undrafted guy, your case to make the roster is when the pads come on is just make splash plays. And it's kind of hard to do so as a nose tackle. You're gap filling, you're run defending, but Nasir Stackhouse has stood out in that defensive line group. And at this point, I think he definitely makes the roster. There's a couple interceptions from defensive backs today, both on the first team and the second team. On the first team, it was, of course, Xavier McKinney with yet another interception on Jordan Love. I believe that's his second on Love in camp so far. I mean, it's Xavier McKinney. He's a ball hawk, and he's been a ball hawk all camp thus far. And also with the second team, Kalen King had a pick 6 with the 2s. King has been on fire this camp so far, and right now is making his case to make this roster and maybe be that 4th corner, 5th cornerback on the roster. He also had a would-be sack on a nickel blitz, which is great to see as well, getting a pick 6 and also a would-be sack. It was also a nice day for wide receiver Romeo Dobbs. 1 drive during 2-minute sessions. Him and Jordan Love connected multiple times. Keaton Oladapo had a tackle for loss with the 2s. We've been seeing the Packers utilize him a little bit more near the line of scrimmage as a nickel defender. I like seeing that. Get Keaton Oladapo on the field any way you can. I think it can be a great depth safety to have that you can put at multiple positions. Also, Colby Wooden had a would-be sack on Jordan Love. He's fighting for a roster spot, and I think it might come down to, Brinson, Stackhouse, and Wooden, and the Packers can only keep 2 of those. And right now, I think it's Brinson and Stackhouse. Brinson also had a impressive tackle for loss on a 3rd and 1, forcing a 4th down in today's practice. And another year 2 player, Tyron Hopper, is seemingly making that year 2 jump. He's been flying around at training camp once the pads have came on. It's nice to see his name mentioned more and more as camp goes on. To finish things up, there was a little extracurricular after the play between Rasheed Walker and JJ Enagbare today. Matt LaFleur ended up being furious with Rasheed Rasheed Walker, took him off the field, and made the entire offensive line run a lap. I like seeing that from LaFleur. You can't tolerate fighting on the football field. We've had, in the past, penalties ruin drives from things like that. So I'm glad that Matt LaFleur not only made Rasheed Walker step off, but the entire offensive line go run a lap with Rasheed Walker. And Josh Jacobs and Tucker Kraft decided to join them in running that lap. So also great leadership. Josh Jacobs has really taken a step up as a leader. It seems like every time a player has an issue, Jacobs is the first one next to him on his side to raise him back up. Really love seeing that from Josh Jacobs and Tucker Kraft. And it's just a good coaching habit for Matt LaFleur to discipline his players when something like that happens after the play. There's no place for that, especially with your own team on the practice field. So I love to see that. But overall today, the defense looked very fast. The first team, second team. The Packers have some ball players on this defense, and the main headline is Matthew Golden is the real deal. I think he will become the number one wide receiver of the Green Bay Packers, and I think the Packers got a steal at pick 23, and I'm really, really excited to finally see him in a game. Really, really hype. Like I said, the Packers are off tomorrow, then back at it on Thursday and Friday, so really appreciate you guys coming by to the channel. Those are all the main takeaways from day 6 of Green Bay Packers training camp. Released a highlight video earlier today going over the clips from the early portion of practice if you want to go watch that as well. Leave a like down below if you enjoyed the video. I'll catch you on the next one, and as always, go Pack Go.